Dealing with shame is the door. And this is what I mean. One of the main reasons that you doom scroll or you binge something when you know you're supposed to be doing something else or when you actually want to do something else is because of your internalized shame and guilt. This is what I wrote. I observed in my own life that the main reason why I would binge scroll is for no other reason just because I lack clarity to move forward. And this internalized shame and guilt usually comes up when it is met with me dealing with my ignorance. So I doom scroll to avoid dealing with those feelings because they're uncomfortable to me. But in the process, what I end up doing is I end up avoiding taking radical responsibility and accountability, which is the ultimate catalyst for change and improvement. we I have found that majority of us, the way we were brought up, especially in the school system, like I'm referencing Kenya because Kenya has an 844 system. You find that majority of us, I think it cuts across, it's not just Kenya, it cuts across almost the whole world, where the school systems that we went through taught us that there's only one answer for something, and if you don't get it correct, you're either dumb, you're stupid, you're not learning quick enough, all those negative connotations. So, what ended up happening is we internalize this shame of not knowing, this shame and guilt of not knowing, because shame is a precursor for guilt. You only feel guilt because you're ashamed of something. For example, you you feel ashamed for getting on Pornhub and watching porn. Then you feel guilty for maybe sullying yourself with that because, let's say, for example, from a Christian standpoint, where they say it is wrong, it is bad. So that is just one example of how shame and guilt can materialize, and you end up shaming yourself for wanting to explore, shaming yourself for wanting to know something from the internet, or just being curious about something. And this way of like moving through life, which looks like when you don't know something and you don't have the right answer, you are ashamed. And so this prevents you from actually getting the right answers. This prevents you from discovery. This prevents you from being curious. And this is a very big disservice to yourself. It all ties back to you carrying on other definitions of what it means to live right, other definitions of what your life looks like. And I actually did this in a video which I'll link above. But the whole point of this is one of the main reasons, again, that still stands as the biggest reason, I would say, for doom scrolling is because you are ignorant. You lack clarity on what it is you want to do. It doesn't matter whichever problem you want to solve or where you're at and where you want to move to. You are lacking clarity on how to move forward. And Alex Omozi always says it best. He says that sadness is brought on by ignorance. And when you realize that, then you can be able to now take the next step, because ignorance is something that is workable. Ignorance is something that you can solve. It's something figure outable. So when you realize that now you're ignorant, you can take the next step into educating yourself, into removing the ignorance or dealing with the ignorance. And also in the Bible, there's this saying in the Bible that says, "My people die from lack of knowledge." How I interpret that quote is that there are many forms of death, but one of the main ones is spiritual death. You fail to become your full self. You fail to be in your power because of not knowing. You do not know what you're capable of. You do not know what you are. And I did this again in another video where I said we should begin with the truth. If you begin with the truth of what you actually are, a spirit having a human experience. And what is a spirit? A spirit is pure energy. If you begin from that standpoint and make every other definition of yourself suspicious, then you can be able to become less ignorant. You can be able to educate yourself from a better standpoint, from a place of no shame, from a place of no guilt. And when you facilitate learning like this, it is able to stick. Learning becomes fun. Curiosity and discovery are things that now are rewarded, as opposed to how you had been brought up, being taught that you asking too many questions, you not giving the correct answer is wrong, which most of us internalize that we means that we are wrong. So again, I've seen this come up very evidently when I'm doom scrolling or when I'm just binging something when I know I'm supposed to be doing something else. That's why they say procrastination in a way is just procrastination is your body trying to tell you that you're avoiding dealing with a specific emotion. But it can't say that clearly. It's more it's up to you now to decide to discern and actually sit with yourself. And one of the main reasons we find most of us procrastinate is because we avoid dealing with ourselves by filling up our time with other things, other nitty gritties. There's a friend of mine, there's this story I'll give to show how prevalent the school system was in telling us that you only have one way of doing things, and if you can't do these things in this way, then you're wrong. Or if you only have one answer to one thing, and if it's not that, then something is not right. Things are not going okay. And that means in yourself that you are not okay. That's what most of us internalize. A friend of mine called, let's call her L. L. A friend of mine called L wanted a picture from me. She saw a picture in my phone and she liked it. And she told me, where can I get that picture in good quality? I told her the one I have is a downloaded quality and I can send it to you, but it will obviously degrade in quality a bit. But I can do you one better. I can send you an email that will give you access to that picture. But instead of seeing the clarity or seeing the ease in getting this picture, she was very adamant in saying, no, I don't want the email, I want the picture. And I'm telling her, I'm not giving you the email so you go through it. I'm just giving you the email because it has the attachment to the picture. So she was very resistant to it at first. But then we came to see this as how, again, we are kind of like tunnel vision in a way where we are resisting this one thing because we think it's not what we want, whereas it will lead us to exactly what we want. It's like saying this quote that usually says, sometimes we miss opportunities because they don't come packaged the way we expect. So it became an inside joke, which I'm going to share with you now. It's going to become our inside joke, where you're resisting the email which will give you the picture. Ask yourself now, what email have you been resisting? What email have you been resisting that will get you that picture that you want? You want the picture, yes, but you can get it through the email, and you can get it in the best quality through the email. So what is that email that you have been resisting to deal with? You get? So again, that this whole analogy of the email and the picture is to show you that majority of us would want to deal with our procrastination, we want to deal with our binge scrolling, but we are avoiding sitting with ourselves, feeling where those feelings are, and dealing with those emotions that we might term as negative or unpleasant. But it is only through going through that door of shame. And Toni Morrison says it best, shame is the door.
Do you think it is possible then for someone to forgive themselves even when they've done something absolutely terrible?
Yeah. Yes, it's called grace. At some point you do. If you don't, you're in a cul-de-sac. But you have to go through the fire first. You have to experience the full fall and the complete self-loathing in order to come around to something like the forgiving of oneself. It's when you skip responsibility, when you use a substitute emotion like guilt, which is of no use to anyone.
No.
But if you feel the real thing, which is shame, hatred, humiliation, and self-loathing, that is the door. And if you get through that, then you can forgive yourself.
If you deal with that shame, make space for it, redefine that story, retell it from the point of view that actually serves you. Go back to that core memory of yours and reshape it in a way that serves you from the standpoint of the truth, where you are a spirit having a human experience. And what is a spirit? A spirit is pure energy. So aside from that, I would say shame, again, reiterating it, is the door. When you deal with the shame, you will be able to deal with the internalized guilt at the same time. So instead of avoiding it by more binge scrolling and more avoidance, deal with it head on. Sadhguru says something very on point in terms of this matter. He says, once there is a distance between you and your thought process, a new freedom is born. With this freedom, a new perception arises. And this is what we get when we take a step back. When we take a step back from the incessant procrastination that it's just really masking your avoidance of dealing with the unpleasant feelings, i.e., shame and guilt. So one of the things I started doing, which might help a bit, but it will just snap you out of that loop. Let's say, for example, you're scrolling on your phone and it's active and you're just like this, like this, like this. One of the things I did, because I found it a bit difficult to put my phone down, I shut it off. Like, I'm holding it, I was scrolling, but I just, it's like this, I'm scrolling. But since I'm holding it with both hands, I just press the power button. And then I continue doing that for a while. When you do this, what it did for me is it showed me the absurdity of what I was doing. Because I had wasted close to like 2 hours on doom scrolling. Whereas I would have used that on a project or something that I actually wanted to do. All this is to say that the enemy here is ignorance. Ignorance is the enemy. And it's ignorance masks it is literally saying you are lacking clarity on what it is you want to do, the problem you want to solve, how you want to solve it, how you want to go about it. When you lack this clarity and you have this internalized shame and guilt, your most likely default setting will be to avoid dealing with those feelings. But now that you know this, now that you're illuminated in one way or another, you can be able to take better steps moving forward. What that looks like is very particular to the problem and the issue you want to solve. So again, ignorance is the enemy. And I had this really beautiful realization recently where a friend of mine showed me that I was trying to win in, let's say, for example, an argument. I was trying to win in an argument to come up on top. But it was only through me letting go that I was able to win, and win big. And this is what I mean. I was trying to win by seeming right. But by letting go of my wantingness to win, that wanting to win, like wanting to be right, I was able to win in the sense I was able to keep my peace, and I was able to remove all the things that were not working for me, i.e. that conversation, that particular person. So let go of your need to win, and you win. That will be all for today, and thank you for tuning in. Catch you in the next video.